This series for me has just been beyond expectations as far as how good it is, and it just continues to get better and better. Yeah, Hunter x Hunter, episode 11, Trouble with the Gamble. Man, I just... Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review on the awesome and comical and action-packed and just gut-wrenchingly sadistic tale of Hunter x Hunter 2011. Now, our last episode, as a matter of fact, the last few have really seen us in this, obviously, contest between our 5 participants, going up one-on-one in different types of scenarios and battles and what have you against these 5 prisoners. And at the end of last episode, Leorio was able to, although wagering some of the hours that he had worked, him and this girl LaRue that he was betting against, he lost some of the hours on the wager, but he did wind up getting them the battle, the win, I should say, for Kurapika, and what he didn't finish off in his. So now they are up 2-1. The problem is Leorio, though, only has 20 hours left to bet, and this LaRue has 80. So the first half, and this episode is very divisive. The first half of it, to me, was like laugh out loud, just like sitting there just chuckling and just loving the characters and the comedic moments and everything else. And then the second half was just like fucking awesome, just action. So I'll break it down each half. The first half, this LaRue winds up going and pulling off her cloak, and she's this goofy-looking, bouncy, I don't know, to me, she looks like this 12 or 13-year-old girl. She's got her hair, pink hair, out in pigtails, and she's got a 112-year sentence for trafficking of illegal species and something else, gambling, something like that. So, but what she winds up doing is she wants to think of a gamble. So she says, well, how about we bet whether I'm a man or a woman, right? And Leorio, being the pervert that he is, and this is the part where it became real funny, he's like, okay, I'll take that bet. So they bet 10 hours, whether she's a man or a woman. And he's like, and he's thinking in his head, he's like, the obvious choice is that she's a woman. And she says, and I'll let you go and basically feel me up and check all my body parts, until you're content with the answer that you come to, right? So he's like, all right. So he winds up going and betting the 10 hours that she's a man. And she's like, okay, whatever, I'll take that bet. And she's like, no, actually, I'm a woman. So he winds up going over, though, and it's funny because prior to that, he's thinking about it, and he's like, well, she's definitely a woman, unless she's a tranny. Like, unless she's a chick with a dick, I don't really know. But either way, I just found it kind of funny to go and see this perv, And I mean, this guy looks like he's probably in his like 20s or 30s or something like that, He's all dressed in a suit and everything else, and the little wire-rimmed glasses. And I don't know, I was thinking about it. I'm like, why are you wanting to feel up this little girl? But anyway, in a scene that's done off camera where he basically just has this like lovely joy look on his face, he does go over and feel her up and make sure that she is a girl. And she is, in fact, a girl. He loses the wager. The next wager that's made, and I thought this was very cool, and this is the mind game type of stuff that I really enjoy about this series so far, is they decide to go and play rock, paper, scissors. Now, anybody who's ever played rock, paper, scissors, it's fairly simple. You have 3 different choices you can do. If you both choose the same thing, it's a draw, it's a tie, you do it again. And obviously, there's different ways, to win based on what your opponent has, right? So there's an answer for everything. Yeah, and really, I've never looked at rock, paper, scissors more than anything than just to kind of goof around with. But the way they explain it in here, and it's really neat to see how she goes and like mind fucks him, and she goes and tells him about how she can read minds and everything else. It's the intimidation thing. But it's cool because over on the platform where everybody else is standing, Gon and Kurapika and Killua and Tompa, Kurapika is explaining what his move is going to be and why, and she explains that rock, paper, scissors on the whole just seems like a game of chance, that you have a decent chance of winning. But basically, if a person winds up delving deeper on the mental side of things, they can actually go and it's a very complex, deep game that they can kind of, based on the way you're acting and the way they're making you feel with the words and the things that they're saying to you, they can kind of make you choose the thing they want you to. They can kind of predict what you're going to do, paper, rock, or scissors, So it's very cool to see, because the first shake, they wind up both giving rock, and it's a draw and everything else. And then he's like, aha, yeah, you were wrong. You can't read my mind. If you could, you would have won. And she's like, no, the whole idea here is not to win. It's to stall you. So I could just stall you all day long. And she still gets in his head like, yeah, I can read your mind, She goes, but I'll win with the next one, And then there's this back and forth and everything else. And Gon tries to tell him what to choose. And then he actually doesn't choose it because he gets nervous. And he winds up losing. He winds winds up going and choosing Rock again, I believe, and she takes paper, and she winds up winning. So now, no matter what happens, they lose the match, right? So Leorio, you know, he finishes off Kurapika's match and gets them the win for that one, but he loses not only the match for them, so now they're tied 2-2, and it's up to Killua to win so they can move on, but he also burns 50 hours of their time, and they've only got like 59 or 60 hours left. So, definitely, like, there was some good that came out of it, but some bad as well, and you saw how Leorio was just kind of, you know, he's mentally weak, I think, and I think that's what they were trying to show. So he goes back over, you know, to his platform, and he's obviously all pissed off at himself and everything else, and now after, even if they do win, they have to burn 50 hours doing nothing, or what, however it's going to work, you know. And so then the second half of the episode, it takes us to, we wind up actually seeing a few of the other participants finishing up. The weird-looking Hellraiser, pinhead-looking guy, I forget what his name is, but he winds up coming in second, because Hisoka, of course, was first. He wound up actually getting to the end in record time or something like that in the last episode. And then we also wind up seeing the cool, bald, ninja-looking guy as well. So we see that they you know, there is some people finishing up over here and getting to the end of it. And then when it takes us back to it, I really thought this was played very well. Killua was just nonchalant about it, and he's like, all right, whatever, I'm up now, right? And he's like, I'll be cool as long as it's not like a mental game of math or something like that. I'm not good at any of that crap. Now, Majitani, the blue guy that was pretending to be a Phantom Troop guy and everything, comes over to this cloaked figure, and he's just like, oh, he's not so scary, and blah, blah. Dude grabs him by the face, right? And just one move, and I mean just puts him into the wall, and he's just sitting there, and they show this great angle where you can just see like his foot still like twitching, so you just presume that he's dead, that he's just been smashed into the wall. And as this dude's walking past everybody else to come out there to do his fight, he just goes and like scrapes out part of the frickin' stone in the wall, the cement, you know, the brick in the wall. Anyway, we find out that this dude's name, as he takes his cloak off, we see, because Leorio knows about him. He was this, like, I guess, world famous, apparently mass murderer, killed 146 people. His name is Jonas, first of all. And this dude has like a 967-year sentence, right? And you see him, and he kind of looks, he's got this big handlebar mustache, and he just, I don't know, he doesn't look like that grim and gruff of a character. But apparently, these 146 people that he killed, right, the one thing they all had in common is he killed each and every one of them with his bare hands. And apparently this dude, like, his nickname is like Iron Fist or Iron Fingers or something like that, so he would just like rip people apart with his freaking fingers, you know. So this dude is made out to be this big badass, right? And he comes up there, and even Leorio was like, oh no, we'll just take the loss, don't worry, there's always next year for the Hunter exam. And Killua was like, no, I'm cool. And he's like, didn't you even listen to anything I said? And Killua just walks out there, and you gotta remember, this is, you know, it's a 12-year-old kid. He's got his little spiky hair, shorts on, you know, he carries a skateboard around with him. Doesn't look like much, you know. And even the Phase 3 exam director that's watching all this, he's like, listen, you know, he goes, unfortunately, he's going to get torn apart by this Jonas guy, but, you know, that is what it is. There's no mercy in the Hunter exam, you know. So these guys come up to each other, and they're standing up, and I mean, this other guy, this Jonas, is standing like a full, like, 3 feet taller, it looks like, 2 or 3 feet taller than Killua, you know, just a huge size difference. And he goes, and Killua says, okay, so what's the contest going to be? And this guy's like, there will be no contest. I'm not even doing this for stalling people, reduction of years, time. I'm just doing this so I can hear you scream and just tear you apart, right? I haven't touched human flesh in a while. This dude is a sadistic fucking killer, right? So Killua is just like, all right, that's cool. So it'll be a contest to the death, you know? And he's just like, yes, it will, blah, 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 you know? In one feral move, it's cool. You just see this close-up of Killua, and then you go and you kind of see, and like the sound and everything like that sort of portrays, changes the color and the mood, the background, like a bluish purple, you know? And it's just like, oh, and you see just kind of like this flash of movement, you know? Next thing you know, the way it's shown is you see this guy Jonas in the foreground, and you see Killua is now behind him, right? And has obviously used his speed to his advantage. This dude goes, and as it pans out, you see that there's blood coming from his chest right here. And at first I'm like, oh man, Killua stabbed his ass or did something, right? No. As this guy goes and the shot pans out and it turns around, Killua's got his back to it, and the animation is done so beautifully in here, because all you can do is then all of a sudden you hear in the background, you just hear a boom, 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 boom. And you're just like a heart beating, and I'm thinking, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me, right? Killua goes and turns around, and he's holding this dude's heart in his hand, right? I mean, just so fast and in one swift movement, he removed this guy's heart without him even knowing it. Did it so quickly that this dude's body still thinks he's cool and alive. There's still blood flowing through, the brain's still active and everything, because he turns, he's like, that's mine. And he starts trying to walk towards Killua, and each step, man, I'm just like, oh, God. And the guy goes, and then the heart's beating slower and slower. Boom, 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 boom. Until eventually just nothing. Dude falls on the ground with his hand outstretched. Killua drops the heart in his hand, wins the match, and then like walks back over like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This fucking kid is my hero now, man. Oh, God. Oh, I seriously need just a little 12-year-old crazy-ass killer like that, man. Could you imagine having something like that in your stable? Holy shit. Somebody like that on your side, I guess, you know, is a better analogy. Nonetheless, they wind up winning, obviously, that contest, but now they have to go and spend 50 hours out of the 58 or 59 that are left, and they wind up, there's this little side room they can go into, and they all go in there, and it's kind of neat because we wind up, Gon's the only one that knew that Killua had this background, that he comes from a family of assassins and everything else, but as they get into this room and the episode wraps up, Kurapika winds up saying, you know, hey, dude, how did you do, like, what technique was that you used? And he's like, technique? And she's like, yeah, you know, to pull his heart out and everything else. And he's like, oh, I didn't use a technique. And then we get to see what everybody was telling me about with his claws and shit like that from a couple episodes ago. He goes, I just manipulated my body. And he goes and he takes his fingers, and all of a sudden they become like these cool creature-like, thick, thinner, sharper claws, almost like knives, right? So this dude's able to manipulate that and then just be like, and just removed his heart. And then he talks about how, and that wasn't even that good. My father could have done that shit. My old man could have done that shit without even a drop of blood getting on, right? I'm thinking, wow. Wow, your family must be really entertaining at, like, you know, holiday parties, Thanksgiving, stuff like that, you know. Hey, Killua, can you carve the turkey? Sure thing. Yeah, man. Oh, God, I am loving this series, man. I am serious. It just, oh, it is so good. I cannot wait for the next one. So that's how things leave off, is that they're all in this room, and they got to sit there and basically spend, there's some couches and stuff, a TV, and Killua and Gon, it's so neat to see Killua just be this, like, crazed fucking, well, not crazed, he was all very calm, but just this sadistic, like, one-hit kill type of assassin in one frame, and then in the next frame, him and Gon are running around like 12-year-old kids should, and they're like, let's see what's in the room here for entertainment, you know? So it is very cool the way the episode was done and portrayed very well, and love the animation, love the story, the sound, the backdrop, the characters, every freaking thing. My episode question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is going to be, and the obvious thing would be about Killua now that we know more about him, but I asked about him a few episodes ago, and everybody kind of said he's one of their favorite characters, this and that. What are your thoughts on Leorio, and just the fact that that he kind of got mentally fucked over that? I don't know if physically he can be very strong, but so far he seems like he's the weak link in this chain. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, aside from Tompa, but these four that we've seen that kind of seem to be our main characters, at least for the exam, of Killua, Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio. Leorio to me seems like the loose cannon. He seems like the guy that you can't trust to win. He has good intentions, but unfortunately doesn't have a lot of the skills to back it up. So that's just my opinion. Let me know what your opinion is in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you hunters in the next one, Nation.
If you'd like to see more of my artwork, remember to follow me over on my other channel as well as Facebook and Twitter.